Hello friends, welcome to BYD Classes, and this is 12th of September 2023, the Hindu newspaper analysis. So before the discussion, I want to tell you that at the end of this lecture, there will be the 5 questions which are based today's the Hindu newspaper articles, and there will be 5 questions from PYQ based questions which were come in the previous year prelims, so you can solve and more confidently you will be aware about how questions will come in the next year 2024 prelims examination, and I hope you will definitely solve those questions and answers all the questions, okay, which are total 5 questions. So let's begin the first article. The first article says launch of West Asia Economic Corridor is a historic step, Prime Minister of India says. So here the context of the launch of India Middle East European Economic Corridor, which is launched during G20 summit in New Delhi. What is Middle East Europe Economic Corridor? It is here the economic corridor from India to the European countries, and here from Gujarat through the Gulf of or Persian Gulf, through Saudi Arabia to Turkey, and it is a Mediterranean Sea and towards the Europe, okay. So this is the east corridor connecting India to Arabian Gulf, and northern corridor connecting Europe. So these are two corridors which are connecting each other, north as well as east corridor. What is the purpose of this corridor? Cost effective cross border ship to rail transit network, and to supplement existing maritime and road transport routes which will reduce the cost of rail as well as road transport, and through the maritime trade as well as through railway network, and goods and services transit to from the from between India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and Europe, and secure regional supply chains and trade accessibility. It will be very useful for this corridor to boost economics for India as well as the Middle East and Europe. So, world's fastest growing countries, our partnership is important for the stability of entire region of Middle East, Europe as well as Asia or Eastern Asia or the global south. And yesterday means while G20 was ongoing, the historic step to connect India, West Asia and Europe through an economic corridor, and this corridor was launched during the discussion of G20 or the Delhi Declaration includes this corridor project. Apart from connecting the two countries, the corridor will help in the increase of economic growth, energy sector and digitization, and significant of visit of the head of the state from various countries, especially from Middle East and European countries. Saudi Arabia became a member of BRICS during BRICS summit in which was happened recently in Johannesburg, South Africa. And discussion and focus of this BRICS summit was to focus on defense, energy, security, education, technology, transportation, healthcare, tourism and culture, space, semiconductors as areas of possible cooperation. And both sides extended full support to the West Coast refinery project, which is a trilateral project between Aramco, ANDNC, AND, ADNOC of Saudi Arabian companies and Indian companies, which correlates with the US $50 billion have already earmarked or already invested. The new thing that has come up is that the two sides agreed to set up a joint task force to help in identifying and channelizing $100 billion US investment. So this is the target. And both sides agreed to work on India Gulf Cooperation Council Free Trade Agreement. And among the 8 agreements that were sealed included one between the Central Vigilance Commission of India and Saudi Oversight and Anti-Corruption Authority, and another between the Saudi and Indian Exim Bank, Export Import Banks, and National Institute of Technology of India and the Saline Water Conversion Corporation of Saudi Arabia signed an agreement during the visit in G20 summit and welcomed the expansion of the private sector in the two countries to enter into investment partnerships in the agriculture as well as food industries. The joint statement stressed on gathering and strengthening cooperation in the field of defense and anti-terror cooperation, and made a special mention of preventing access to missiles and drones to carry out terror attacks. And indicating this, the ongoing reforms in the Saudi Arabia, the joint statement mentioned that two sides discussed plans to strengthen the tourism segment of bilateral relations, because the Saudi Arabia as well as UAE, both countries have the more soft power which can perform better, and India can boost his own tourism sector through the agreement between these two countries, okay, and through this corridor. And next article is riding India of food insecurity. There is the global crisis, which are green crisis because of Ukraine-Russia war, and India may be the fastest growing large economy of the world, but it is also facing accelerating food price inflation. And during Ukraine-Russian war, world is facing more severe condition because of ban on the trade of food grains such as wheat as well as the rice. The price of food such as rice first accelerated sharply in 2019 and has climbed in most years thereafter. In July this year, annual inflation exceed 11%, the highest in the decade, and population could be facing hardship because of food inflation. And state of food security and nutrition in the world of the Food and Agricultural Organization that estimates the proportion of the population across countries unable to afford a highly diet. The figure for India in 2021 is devastating to note. An estimated 74% of population cannot afford a healthy diet, and more than 1400 million population which is facing the poverty or which is facing in the hunger conditions, and it will cross the 1 billion marking according to the Food and Agricultural Organization. And why this finding is plausible or problems finding in this article: reduction in purchasing power because of the depreciation of currency, because of the increment of the interest rate of the Federal Bank of United States of America, and it would be reasonable to expect that food consumption has been impacted. And because of the food consumption is low, anemia could be the grabbed, and prevalence of anemia mostly induced by nutrient deficiency in latest National Family Health Survey undertaken over 2019-21. Over 50% of the adult women were estimated to the anemic, and this suggests that the Food and Agricultural Organization's finding that over half of India cannot afford a healthy diet. That is the problems creating this inequality or insecurity of food. And because of this, the schemes of the world as well as India have been criticized because of insecurity in the food. And even if we were to consume that we were to assume that the agency has overestimated numbers by 100%, we would be left with 500 million people in this category. And population of all countries of the world are facing multiple challenges, especially for food inflation, and it is more than China's population, and it ensuring that Indians have access to a healthy diet is the most important task of economic policy today. Macroeconomic policy relied upon to control inflation has proved to be useless in the context. A role of Reserve Bank of India has failed to reducing the insecurity of food, or failed in this task that tackle the situation of insecurity of food, with with the inflation rate mostly higher than the target for 4 years by now, and its approach of contracting output when the inflation rate rises, misleading term inflation targeting, that RBI is facing multiple challenges, and it that RBI is creating more number of initiatives that prevent this negative consequences of this insecurity of food. Central banks are incapable of solving these insecurity problems, and it is necessary to intervene on the supply side to ensure that food is produced at a steady price by raising the yield on land. And significance of the green revolution: during green revolution, there is having engineered a green revolution in the 1960s, but it is not being tapped. At the time, reeling under extreme food shortage following two successive droughts, the government orchestrated a supply side response by providing farmers with high yielding seeds, cheap credit, and assured prices through procurement, and this succeeded especially spectacularly. Within a few years, India was no longer dependent on food imports because of the success of Green Revolution, and a single event that was added India's quest to be self-reliant in the highly polarized climate of the Cold War. And Western economists have pointed to the success of the United States mission to land a human on the moon as an example of an entrepreneurial state during 1960s. And however, to have engineered the Green Revolution in India at a time when it was a desperately poor country challenged by having to ensure food security to a staggering large number is perhaps more significant. And these mistakes made among them the rampant use of chemical fertilizer fueled by subsidy and multiple irrigation facilities which degraded the soil as well as the underground water. And there was also the reliance on procurement prices rather than productivity increase to ensure farm incomes which fueled inflation. And policy was almost exclusively focused on cereals rather than pulses, the main source of protein for most Indians. At the same time, we should focus on the specific goal of lowering the cost of producing food. And Green Revolution had a specific agenda that making India self-reliant in food. That was the true and the first Green Revolution was success. In this, it succeeded eminently and in a remarkably short time, but without paying any attention to the cost of producing food. Okay, for this, a second agricultural revolution is needed now, and producing prices, cash transfers, the public distribution system, and priority lending required of public sector banks are not sufficient alone and yield increasing interventions on the farm are needed to at least contain the cost of production if not to actually lower it. And it is needed to extend irrigation to 100% of the net sown area and end of the restrictions on leasing of land and reducing the groundwater table as irrigation purposes. And it should be needed also as the more than 50% should use of rainwater harvesting. What are the initiatives to work on this insecurity of food grains? So expanding on each of these proposals would be in order. An increased public expenditure is not reflected in an increase in irrigated areas. The ongoing fragmentation of already small land holdings lower the capacity for productivity, enhancing capital investment for which leasing is a solution. And India's network of public agricultural research institutes needs to be energized to resume the sterling role they had played in the 1960. So remember this as well, okay? And it should be need also the protein production and more incremental to the sufficient public distribution system from the central pool and not harm the federal structure that distribution of food grains from central to the state government. But a non-ideological approach would be needed whether at the center or in a state if a difference is to be made. And a noticeable feature of the first green revolution was that by relying on private enterprise, then Prime Minister Ms. Indira Gandhi chose chose a capitalist approach instead of the communist approach. Okay, so green revolution was made the first dent on poverty in India that more helped to eradicate poverty during 1970s and 80s. Similarly, now in order to ensure that all Indians have permanent access to a healthy diet, no approach consistent with ecological security must be on the table, and it is also under Article 21, that is right to nutrition is a fundamental right. Okay, and it is a also a welfare of the state that given in the directive principles of state policy. Next is the Graham's law, Gresham's law. Okay, what is this? The Gresham's law refers to the bad money drives out good. The Gresham's law comes into play when the exchange rate between two monies or two currencies is fixed by the government at a certain ratio that is different from the market exchange rate. Okay, so Gresham's law defined as the bad money drives out good. Inferior money drives out good. Okay, and it is role play to exchange rate between two currencies that is fixed by the government at a certain ratio and from different market exchange rate, and such price fixing causes the undervalued currency, that is the currency whose price is fixed at a level below the market rate, to go out of the circulation, and it should be based on market exchange rate. Okay, that creates the market determined exchange rate system, that is essentially an equilibrium price at which the supply of a currency is equal to the demand for the currency, and price of a currency is fixed by the government at a level below the market exchange rate. The currency supply drops while demand for the currency rises. Thus, a price cap can lead to a currency shortage with demand for the currency outpacing supply. An origin of this term, it is named after the English financier Thomas Gresham, who advised the English monarchy on financial matters. So remember this term. Okay, and dividing out the dollar in Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan rupee and the US dollar. That Sri Lankan rupee was in crisis in early time. Okay, and US dollar as well, that creating a more depreciating of US dollar, that creating a high inflation rate, and federal bank also hike the interest rate of US based monetary policy. And Graham's law holds true only when the exchange rate between currencies is fixed under law by the government and law is implemented effectively by authorities. That simply means when government wants the Gresham's law or the currency is fixed decided by the government, then Gresham's law would be applied. And in the absence of any government defense decree fixing the exchange rate between currencies, it is good money that eventually drives bad money out of market and not the other way around. And it simply means that any government which is absent to decide the currency exchange rate, then this money will be good money and this will also perform to out of the bad money from market. Okay, so simply it is you can remember. And when the exchange rate between currencies is not fixed and people have the choice to freely choose between currencies, people gradually stop using currencies that they consider to be of poor quality and adopt currencies that are found to be of better quality. And you can remember simply that the Gresham's law simply defined the money is not a legal tender. Okay, and that frequently it is called as the uh, black money, and this black money would be eradicated by the government decided as a legal tender. So this would be this Gresham's law would apply when the when the bad money is performed in the market system. And this phenomenon wherein good money drives out bad is called Thayer's law. So Thayer's law is inversely proportional to the Gresham's law. That Gresham's law, money performs bad, and in Thayer's law, money performs good. So you can remember this. The rise of private cryptocurrencies in recent years has been cited by many analysts as an example of good money issued by private money producers, driving out bad money issued by the government. And next is the bilateral cooperation signed between India and Bangladesh. So this is a 3 MOU signed between two countries, India and Bangladesh, and there are 3 MOUs such as digital payment mechanism between National Payment Corporation of India and Bangladesh Bank. And under this MOU, both the government issuance of Rupee prepaid card from Bangladesh at any ATM, and commercial transactions, cross-border remittance, acceptance of UPI through the QR code in Bangladesh at merchant location. So you can remember this, the first MOU for when digital payment performed in the Bangladesh market through the online system like UPI and Rupee prepaid card performing in the market of Bangladesh. And renewal of second MOU is renewal of cultural exchange program between India and Bangladesh for the year 2023-25, and under this it will strengthen cooperation in areas of archaeological conservation, youth affairs, mass media, sports, etc., and exchange the visits of scholars or academicians in the field of art and culture and literature. And cultural exchange program initially signed in 2015 and lastly renewed in 2019 for 2021-23, and now it is renewed again for 2023 to 2025. And the third MOU is Indian Council of Agricultural Research and Bangladesh Agricultural Research Council, that is BARC, and it will boost cooperation in agriculture and education, exchange of scientists, scientific equipment, and scientific literature and breeding material. And MOU will 2-year work plan under this for agricultural growth, and formation of joint working group of both nations, which will meet every 2 years in New Delhi and Dhaka. Okay, so you can remember this. And next is the prelims facts that you can solve in form of the questions. And first question is, consider the following statements. And first news is the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. Under this context, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award published by the CSIR, that is Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, that is CSIR, for in the field of science. So this Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar award is published by CSIR, and awardee name is Ashwani Kumar. And under the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar award that performs in every year, that is awarded in every year, and it is awarded in this year, but in for 2022 that not awarded in 2022 due to some uh, situations. Okay, so on the basis of this question, this is the PYQ previous year question, that consider the following statements in respect of Bharat Ratna and Padma award. The first statement: the Bharat Ratna and Padma awards are titled under Article 18 Class 1 of the Constitution, and Padma awards, which were instituted in the year 1954, were suspended only once. A number of Bharat Ratna awards is restricted to be maximum of 5 in a particular year. So which of the following statements are correct? First is 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and all of the above. So you can answer in the comment section below. Okay, and the second is the WPI and CPI. On the basis of this, consider the following statements: weight of the food in CPI is higher than that of the WPI, and WPI does not capture changes in the prices of services which CPI does, and RBI has now adopted WPI as its key measures of inflation and to decide on the changing the key policy rate. So options are given here. A statement, which of the statements are correct? 1 and 2, 2 only, 3 only, all of the above. So you can answer in the comment section below. Okay, next is the Odisha's Koraput Kala Jeera rice gets GI tag. On the basis of this question, on the basis of this news, the PYQ is: which of the following have been accorded GI status? Banaras brocades and saris, Rajasthani dal bati churma, and Tirupati laddu. Options are given here: 1 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, and 1, 2 and 3 only, and 1, 2, 3 all of the above. So this you can answer in the comment section as well. Next is the Novak Djokovic won his 24th Grand Slam title at US Open 2023. So here the question based on this news: consider the following statements in respect of 32nd Summer Olympics. The official motto of this Olympics: a new world. Sport: climbing, surfing, skateboarding, karate, and baseball are included in this Olympic. What are the statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both, and neither 1 nor 2. So you can answer. And next and last is Maharashtra celebrates Dahi Handi festival. On the basis of this news, there is one question asked based on the festivals or based on the tradition and their communities. Consider the following pairs: tradition and communities. Chiliya Sahib festival and communities is Sindhis, Nandaraj Jat Yatra, Gond tribes or communities, and Rivarkari communities is Santals. So what are the options? 1 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, and none of the above. So you can answer in the comment section below. All 5 questions are come in the previous year prelims, UPSC prelims examination. So you can answer in the comment section, and you can practice each and every day with 5 questions with me, okay? And this will be the end of this lecture, and this the Hindu news analysis. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.